We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Thursday, and Thursday is Old Soul Day. She missed last week because she was out working, doing the Lord's work, if you will, down in Texas. And Old Soul is here with us. Now, I'm sure a lot of people looked at you the way you're dressed right now, and they said, "Fuck, Larry's back." No, this isn't Larry. This is Old Soul, and she's dressed in this what appears to be like a handmaiden's tale.
It
Maybe
is.
I'm wrong about that.
No, you're right.
Also, you're going to have to explain yourself.
We were protesting in Arkansas, and I think the last time, was it Ed on the show when he mentioned what the women are going through here?
Yeah.
So that's why we were here. Um, it's crazy. So the women were doing they needed to get the signatures to get the abortion issue on the ballot, and these people out here, they are something else. So you have Sanders, right? And then you have the AG, I think his name is Thurston. And so they said in order to get the referendum on the ballot, you have to have I want to say 80,000 signatures. It no, like 91,000 signatures in 15 different districts.
Okay.
They got 101,000 signatures from 50 different districts, right?
Wow.
They
Wow.
filled out all the paperwork, they got everything through, and then Thurston came back and said it's not valid because we can only, I don't know why, we can only count the signatures for the unpaid canvassers, but the people who were paid, we can't count those signatures. I don't know why. That's what they said.
That
And
sounds
then
bullshit.
so the women and the people organizing said that's not true because they worked directly with Thurston to get that done. And they submitted him the paperwork. They sent it through email and everything. And he was like, nope, didn't get it, don't know what it is. However, what dimed him out was there was some racist guy or something. But anyway, he did a Freedom of Information Act and he got all the paperwork that the women submitted to Thurston. And he doxed all of the canvassers, like all of the women, everybody, they all got doxed. And so we had to dress like this in order to protest so that the women can hide their faces and stuff. You see me like right before when I put the hood on, and you
Yeah.
just protest with just like your lips showing, and that's it. And but anyway, that's what we were doing. And I kind of wanted to give everybody a visual aid. Like, this is what women have to walk around and do if they want to protest. If not, they're going to get doxxed. And then when you put your name on certain paperwork, we were trying to use, so someone like myself and some of the other women who come from other states, us putting our names on it and us signing it because we know we're going to leave. And when we leave, we're going to be okay. But the women who stay here, if they put their information on it, then it's very possible that people can find out who they are and start to harass them. When they were doxxed the first time, they doxed their addresses, where they work, who their spouses was, what school their kids went to, phone numbers. Like, so many of them had to get like new numbers just because they were being called and harassed that much. So this is what we've been going through with the protest here. But
What the fuck kind of
yeah,
state is Arkansas? Jesus Christ. We're supposed to be able to protest in this country, and they want to try to stop you or fuck you around or um, big time you by saying, well, I told you that, but now I'm changing the rules. That's
yeah.
absolute. So, do you think you've gotten around the problem or the stumbling block he put up, this dirtball Thurston guy? And do you think they'll get the question on the ballot?
We don't know yet because we do have like a lot of attorneys and stuff that's involved, but that type of stuff is time sensitive, so there's deadlines on everything. And so it looks like what they're trying to do is just drag it out, and then once it passed that deadline, then that's it. But we're trying.
Well, I just want to ask you a couple things. First of all, I haven't talked to you in 2 weeks. Well, we've texted, but I haven't had you on the show in 2 weeks. You missed last week. A lot of people missed you. A lot of people made comments. I said she's coming back. Um, when you first weren't on last week, I knew you went to Texas. Now you're telling me about Arkansas. You went down to Texas to help people, women of domestic abuse, victims of domestic abuse, and with regards to the hurricane. Why don't you
Yeah,
tell us
the
how that
shelters
went?
were. Yeah, their shelters were flooded out. A lot of those shelters, because it was women and children, so toys were gone, furniture was gone. So we was like separating the donations. After that, we started doing like the cleanup. And then 'cause we were in the first group. And then when the second group came in, those were the people who were going to like rebuild everything. So any repairs that needed to be done and all that stuff, those were the people in the second group. We were just pretty much like preparing it for when that second group got there. Um, but
How was your
I found
experience
out
there?
something. I found out something in Texas that I did not know. And I watch true crime. I was seeing like all the men, they wouldn't go anywhere by themselves. Like, I'm like, what are they like Jehovah's Witnesses or something? Like, why are they always in pairs? And people would started talking about a serial killer in Texas.
Wow.
And um it's like the lady something lake, I want to say. But anyway, it's been in the past 2 years, 12 bodies of men have shown up in that lake, and they all go missing from the same place.
Wow.
And I just started like asking questions, and it was so weird because everybody kept saying, well, that's just kind of how it does in Texas. They don't really want to investigate it right like now. Did nobody really want to push the issue? It's kind of like, I don't know if they were just scared, if they were just used to it. And then one of the volunteers, she was like, oh, girl, you couldn't live out here because you'd be dead. You ask way too many questions. But I'm like, how are you guys living? And it's like 12 bodies disappeared from the same place in the same lake. Their bodies are popping up, and you're not supposed to ask questions. So I guess the families, and I started like researching it on my own, like online, just to kind of get the ins and outs of it. And it's like, it's insane. So if they find the guys and the guys are like bound up, they were saying that the victim maybe was like some kind of sex play going wrong. Other people, they were saying, I think it was like one guy, he had like the back of his head bashed in or something, and they was like, oh, he probably hit his head when he fell into the water. It was just insane. And one of the victims, I watched his brother do like a town hall meeting, and he was talking to the people there. And he was just saying, like, I know you guys aren't gonna like try to find who killed my brother and these other men, but can you please do something like put extra patrols in the area, put fences up, put lighting up? Like, can you just do something to protect people in this area? They did it, but it was like other bodies popped up before they did it, but then the hurricane came. So I don't know if that stuff is still there or not. But the crazy part about it was he said after he gave that talk and he left, one of the city council women came up to him, was like, I'm so sorry to hear about this. Can I give you a hug? So he gave her a hug, and he was like, oh, she was so nice to me. And then a couple of weeks later, he finds out that that woman that came up to him is the one that was stopping them from putting like the lights and stuff up. I
Wow.
was just like, it's I've never like seen anything like that. But yeah, that's
So, sounds like Texas and Arkansas, a couple of fucked up states.
it is. And I think I don't know from what I was seeing, like the guys either had like Hispanic sounding last names, or if you looked at them, you could probably say they were Hispanic. And so I'm thinking maybe they don't want to make it look like there's white people killing Hispanic men, and maybe that's why they're not saying anything. So maybe after the election or something, I don't know, but it's been like 22 months. So the election shouldn't really happen. I don't know why they're not trying to find these men, but it's
Let me
people
ask
know
you that.
about it, they talk about it, but it's like the police department. I heard a rumor that somebody thinks it's a cop, so maybe that's why they're not doing anything. But it's all these rumors being circulated, but nobody's doing anything about it.
Well, the question I would ask, if these men that were killed were Hispanic, were they immigrants? Because there's a
No,
lot of malice toward immigrants down in Texas right now.
um, not from what I could see. And the one who talked about his brother, they definitely were immigrants. They were just that was just the that's just who they were. They just lived in Texas.
Hmm.
But he was working, his brother was working, had a family, and I felt so bad when I was like watching his brother because his brother could barely talk about it. But it seems like the only people pushing for it is either family or friends of the victims, and police support. I'm so confused. There's nothing going on about that. The next time you have Jason, maybe you can ask him what he knows about it, but it does not seem like anybody is like in any hurry to figure this out at all.
Oh,
It's weird.
that's
It's so
crazy.
weird.
That's
Yeah.
that tells you a
Well,
lot
maybe
about
I would be
Texas.
dead if I was in Texas because I was asking a lot of questions.
Yeah, yeah, they don't like that.
Men
Well,
are
so
coming up missing. What's going on?
so then he went from Texas, and I didn't know you were going to Arkansas. Were you always
Yeah.
planning to do this protest thing?
Yeah, I was going to, um, but I ended up getting a call from the wild child and I had to stop what I was doing. And actually, I met someone from the boomer community, like we were talking,
Oh, wow.
straight facts, no chaser. This person's gonna know who I'm talking about. But right in the middle of like getting the information, I got a call from Wild Child's grandmother and everything like kind of dropped and I had to deal with that. So if the person is watching, and I'm pretty sure this person watches like all the time, just send you an email and you'll forward it to me because other people have had their emails forwarded. So
I
I
will.
just wanted to say that I didn't forget, but when I got that call about her, I was like, I don't know what's going on. I need to like drop everything and go help her out. So
Well, you brought that up, and so people, just to remind folks, among every fucking thing else that Old Soul does, she helps a lot of women who are in need of reproductive health care that are in states that don't allow it. They come to her place and stay with her, and she does way more than you can imagine helping these folks, and it's admirable. She had one particular client, if that's what you'd call them, it was a young woman, and we refer to her as the wild child because she's a little wild. And she came to you pretty wild, and then she became pretty connected to you, and then you sent her away to her grandmother's house, 4 hours away.
mhm.
And I said, I told Old Soul, I said, once you've done all this, you're never going to shake this girl, and you haven't.
Mm-mm.
And you said there was a story about Wild Child, and she gave you the okay to tell it. So
Yeah.
why don't you tell us the story?
I thought it was a trigger, but it sounds like maybe it's a combination of either being triggered and survivor's guilt because it was a guy in the church that assaulted her
Right.
and he got sent away. He was brought back into the church, and that's why she didn't want to go back home. But she just recently found out that that guy is not only like back in the church, but they have like a youth summer camp
Wow.
during the summer, and he's at the summer camp. So her and her grandmother were like talking to the people at the church like this guy should not be around children. Their solution to this was this is mind-boggling. It's insane to me. Was he has a preference for teenage girls, but not like little girls. And so they put him with like the little kids and kept him
Fuck.
away from the teenage kids um, while they prayed and got that spirit for the teenage girls out of him. I don't know. It's weird. But
Wow.
anyway, she started acting out. She was going through whatever she was going through. And so I went to get her, and I will not recommend anybody do this unless you like see a health professional, a mental health professional first. I happen to live with one, so um, that helped me figure this out. But and it's so brave of her. So we went back to the church and they were having like after the summer stuff, they go into the church and they have, I don't know, like a little revival, whatever. People go up there, tell their testimony. And the guy that abused her was like sitting in the pulpit. And so she went up to testify. And I was like, do you want me to come stand next to you? Like, what do you want me to do? And she was like, no, just stand right here and like, don't cry. Cause if you cry, I'm gonna cry. And she stood up there and she told the church what he did, pointed him out. And
Wow.
she ended up telling the other girls in the church, if this is happening to you, you have to say something. If your parents don't do anything, if they don't do anything in this church, you need to like go to the police, start telling the teacher. Like if you bang on enough doors, somebody will open that door and help you. And I think she just needed to like confront him. And it was just like I couldn't do it, but she did it. And I felt like all emotions in my life, but I felt like rage that day. Like I was so angry and I couldn't do anything because I looked in the audience and I saw her mother sitting in the audience. And this helper didn't say nothing. She didn't do nothing. She just was sat there. But anyway, so while I'm volunteering and doing what I'm doing, I have her in tow with me. And we'll see what happened after that. Cause she was like really lashing out, and she has little cousins and stuff that, her grandmother can't watch her 24 hours. So, um, yeah,
Wow.
that's it.
So she's at her grandmother's in Arizona. I think she was from Texas originally. So she went back to Texas to do this thing in the church. Why even go
Yeah.
back?
The reason that she wanted to go back is because she, I think it was like survivor's guilt, because she left and she didn't say anything to anybody else. And so it's like you feel guilty because you know it's a predator there and there's other like little girls
Right.
there.
Yeah.
And so she was just feeling like guilty about it. And I don't think she knew how to handle it, which is her fault because she stopped going to her therapy. Well, that part's not her fault, but she just didn't want to talk about it anymore. So she stopped going to her therapy. She would like leave like she was going to work every day. And I'm like, kids always mess up. But she left something at home and her grandmother went to take it to her job. And they're like, yeah, she ain't been here in like a week.
Wow.
So that's how she got found out on that. But yeah, it was, I think she just needed to deal with that, and
How's
like
she doing
we'll get
now?
through it.
She back in
She's doing
Arizona?
no, I'm like she's like in tow with me. When I say she's in tow, like she
She's
is
with
with
you?
me.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Um when we were like protesting, the thing that was so like, and it's crazy because like a few weeks ago, Kamala Harris did an event at Essence when she was like, she's been touring talking about the abortion issue. And she was saying that when she was younger, her mother used to put her in a stroller and take her on the protest with her. And so I was like, I don't know how to choose between her and like what I have to do. And then I just like, I guess I'm gonna have to take her with me. Like I was pissed off about it, but I'm kind of glad that I did. And it's the thing that like got me, and I think like some of the women here, they're just kind of used to that. But what got me is like there's guys over there with them. Like, the women are saying like baby killers and all this other kind of stuff. They got their Bibles in their hand and all this weird stuff. But the guys say some of the most vile, disgusting stuff. And I know like they can't like see our faces, but they would be saying just like they always bring sex into it. Like you need to know what a real man feel like. I'll put a baby in you. Like they say stuff like that.
I
And
know.
there's women standing right next to them, like praying. Like, how are you standing next to these people and you are holier than thou? And these men are saying this stuff. It's I don't know. Like sometimes like when I go to volunteer and help, like this is not like the America that I know. And I think maybe I'm just spoiled being from the West Coast and I don't have to deal with the South like that. But it is, I'm in a loss for words with this. And we
Yeah.
have to like hide ourselves. We were followed. And the good thing about this is like a couple of the cops, they actually have like sisters and daughters and stuff that was like with us covered up. So we knew like they would watch out for us, but anytime like we felt like we was getting followed, like twice for sure we was getting followed. And we have to like drive to the police station and then they kind of like make sure everything is okay. One time we got an escort back. It's like it's so serious. Like these people are dead serious. Like if you need any kind of reproductive health care, you need to pray about it and put it in God's hand. If you die being pregnant, that was God's will. Like that's how they feel about it. And they feel very, very strong about it. Like they think we are like the devil. And it don't help that we in red.
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
it's, it's, it's like a lot of emotions. Like I ain't
It's
never seen no mess like this.
it's pretty amazing when you hear some of these stories and you find out how some people are truly mentally sick. The things they do, the cults they're in, whether it be the Donald Trump cult or the evangelical cult, these people don't have anything to do with God or understand what it is to be to um, care about other people. And hopefully, we're on the right road to at least sending those fucks back under their rocks. Um,
I
since
mean,
we
we
last,
can't even, how do we even get, it's kind of like when you have, and I thought like, I don't know like how Joe Biden did all of this stuff because like he had just very slim majorities, but he has like the courts against him anytime he tried to pass student loan debt relief, the Supreme Court like nope, you can't do this. Like every single time it's like the court system, the people around him, it's the House, it's the Senate, it's this, it's that. And it's like I feel like it's like running into a brick wall. Like how do we get this referendum on the ballot in time for the election when you have Huckabee Sanders on here, you got Thurston over here, and it's like they have attorneys and they could just like pause everything and just drag it out. And it's like, what do you do when you have to go up against all of that? I don't know how he got anything done because it's like it's insane, and you don't change these people's mind. They
Well,
just
that's the most amazing thing about Joe Biden. How does he get anything done? Well,
yeah,
not only did he get some things done, he got more done as president for 4 years than anybody in history has gotten done. I did a little meme. I'm not big on memes, but I've just felt inspired to do this. A picture of Joe Biden, and it said, "So good it only took 4 years, Joe Biden." And that's really true because he's done more than a lot of people did with 8 years, and we should be grateful for that. You know, there's a lot that went by since we last talked. Joe was still running for president. There was some debate as to who would replace him if they used to be replaced. Last night, Joe had his speech, basically handing the torch to Kamala. I'm guessing you said you didn't watch the speech, but you heard it.
yeah. I was starting to get emotional, so I was like, I'm not gonna watch him talk. So I just like I just turned the volume up and just listened to him, and I felt like I know like at first I felt some type of way, but I know that he's doing the right thing, especially the way that it's energized everyone. So I know that he did the right thing, but it's the fact that he was so like selfless about it. You know what I mean? So it's like when he ran with Barack, it's like Barack needed somebody who really knew
Foreign
Washington,
policy.
D.C. like that.
Yeah.
And so he gave up what he was doing at that time and like gave his all to like Barack and the country and making sure that he was successful. At the same time, his son was like sick and dying of cancer. And then after Barack left, he passed the torch to Hillary Clinton instead of Biden.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and now he does this again. It's like every single thing he does, he's like giving and sacrificing for somebody else. And that's a good thing. But then when you think about the stuff that they say about him, calling him a criminal, that Laura Loomer heifer is all online, calling him like a pedophile and all this stuff, it's like when you see somebody that given of themselves and with that much good in them, how do you say some of the most vile and disgusting stuff about the person? And it's like,
Well,
I don't know.
people are just absolutely despicable, especially if you're going against what they want and they happen to be in a cult. We can say this categorically: Joe Biden has been probably the most successful president in my lifetime, and that's 64 years, probably maybe as far back as FDR in the 40s. In addition to that, he's been a good person, a solid person, a caring person, and you can't say that about too many presidents. And as you say, he's run up into obstacles where
Mhm.
he's been kind of pushed aside. And with all that considered, he's still been incredibly successful.
Yeah.
That's the essence of a truly great man, a great president. And you and I are lucky to have lived through it and seen it because the history books will be talking about it forever.
Yeah, I was just it's crazy because the wild child she started crying and like she's like a strong person like she's vulnerable around me but it's kind of like she's not vulnerable around too many people but when Kamala was giving her speech and he was just like I believe in you kid I love you kid it kind of
Yeah,
felt like that kind of like that grandpa role in there
that
and
was
it's
kind
like
of
you can
emotional for me too.
yeah, you can hear the pride in his voice. Like, I know you can do this. It wasn't even about him. It's just like knowing that she's capable, and you're just kind of like watching your bird kind of like fly the nest.
Yeah.
Um, and she was just like, "Oh my God." I was just like, you know what I mean? It was just you could do something like that that you really don't want to do and you can just say you know what this is bigger than me and so this is what I'm gonna do and it's like no hard feelings about it he's still kind of like I'm gonna do whatever I can in these 6 months I'm gonna support you and I'm like gonna go out with a bang and I think he will because you can't tell me that what he did was not planned because I was hearing um before he like announced it that they were kind of like starting to do background checks on some of her options for VP. So I
Right.
was just like, he played them.
He played them good. You know, that's the thing I said about Joe. Joe may be slow, he may stutter, he may seem like the old guy.
Yeah.
He's still the smartest guy in the room. He's got the most experience in Washington, D.C. there today. And he played Kevin McCarthy. He played Mike Johnson. He played Donald Trump and the entire Democratic Party. And they were just, as I've said before, standing there with their mouth agape and their
Yeah.
least impressive appendage in their hand. And
Hmm.
that's exactly what happened. And you can say whatever you want about Joe, but Joe's a wily motherfucker.
Yeah. And you know what? He knew what he was doing when he endorsed Kamala like right away because like I think like maybe a day or two before AOC had came out and she was just like they don't want Biden and they don't want Harris. Like she was like warning us. And then I knew that he had already had I'm trying to think of her name, Jasmine Crockett. He had her going around in the black communities like Charlemagne the God. She was on The View. Like she was going everywhere where black people watch television. And she was like citing the policies, getting us hyped up. And she was like running out there saying, like, hey, this is what's going on behind closed doors. And if it's not Kamala, it's not going to happen. So they were like preparing us for what was going to happen. And then as soon as he endorsed her, it's kind of like, there's stuff going on behind the scenes, but if it's not Kamala, it's not going to happen. And then it was just like so many people, especially like black women, we were like, oh, you think you're going to pass her over? That's not going to happen.
No,
But not only that, but I do think a lot of people got behind her because she kind of had like his blessing. You know what I mean? Like he put his name on that. He stamped like, hey, this is who you need to go with. He pushed everybody towards her to make sure that it happened. And it was just kind of like his legacy, and out of pure respect, everybody was like, ugh, we ain't got no choice. So everybody got behind her, whether they want to admit it or not. So it
well,
was good to see him do that. He's
when
still getting them.
yeah, he's still getting them. I mean, that was very calculated and it was brilliant in that he came out and says, I'm not going to run again. Everybody's
Yeah.
crying and upset and going, oh no, oh no. My wife started crying. People started DMing me with the world's over and all this stuff. He waited an hour and then he said, oh, by the way, I'm endorsing Kamala completely. and,
Hmm.
and, and I got to tell you, whatever success we're seeing right now, that was the pivot point. That was the linchpin. That's what did it. Now, you and I were talking about, and I had to admonish some people. Before this all happened, you and I were saying Joe needs to stay in. That's the
Yeah.
best way to win this. Joe needs to stay in. And I gave shit to the Democrats and the stars that were saying for him to get out. So this happens, and now a couple people come back to me. See, you were wrong, Mike. See how easy it went? We should have done this a long time ago. You should be ashamed. I go, I'm not a fucking shame because you know what? Regardless of how it turned out, you were disrespecting a man that didn't deserve the respect. And even though it turned out, I don't think any better of you. I still don't like you, motherfucker, for what you did because now what you're doing is you're trying to push him out and talk shit about him. And now I turn on the TV and they go, "Oh, it's so brave. We love Joe. Fuck you. I don't trust anything you say."
Yeah, and it's not the fact that he was pushed out. It was the fact of who was doing it. It
Yeah.
was a certain type of Democrat, we could say corporate Democrat. Those were the ones that was doing it. And it was like so many people, like I can't tell you how many questions that I get, like, oh my gosh, as a black woman, you should be so excited about Kamala. You should be happy that old man gone. And I'm like, people don't understand for like my community what it was is you have Joe Biden, a man of the people. He selected a black VP. He put the first woman black judge on a Supreme Court justice. There was so much that he did, like the HBCUs. On top of that, we had so many like loans in the hood to start new businesses. Like he was doing so much. So when you take a man like that, that has your back, that's pushing for you, and is like trying to help you as much as he possibly can, you put him in there for a second term, he don't have to worry about getting reelected or none of that. He can just go balls to the wall, doing absolutely nothing but helping us. And then you just pull that rug from up under us because it's like, okay, he's really trying to get these people ahead. He's really trying to help the middle class. Look what he's doing for Black people. We can't have that. And so it's not like we didn't support her or we didn't like her, but we were so invested in a second term, knowing that he didn't have to worry about reelection and he could really do whatever it is that he wanted to do, especially with the Supreme Court ruling that they came down with. We were just like looking forward to that. And then it's like they just snatched it from us. So when people ask, like, we love Kamala, we have her back, but the reason that we were like hoping and praying so hard that he got a second term is because we knew what he would do for us. And then it's like these people took it away. And
But
that was like the biggest blow that you could just feel.
but and I think
It,
a lot of people were surprised by this because when this was happening and they were trying to push Joe Biden out, the Black community really got enraged. They pushed
yeah,
back, and nobody expected that. And I said, that tells me a lot more than the polls, how people feel this strongly about Joe
yeah,
Biden. And it wasn't just the people of color, it was everybody. You know, he's a powerful guy, he's a smart guy, he's a successful guy, but he seems empathetic and people like you said feel like he's grandpa or brother or whatever. And he's made that connection to people. And when you start pushing around family, people get
yeah,
pissed.
yeah. He was rooting for a little guy,
Yeah,
like the middle class. Like he was like really rooting for us. And you know, when it comes to Kamala, what we have to do is make sure that she has the House and the Senate and herself.
right,
And we say that because it's like, yeah, we need to get Roe v. Wade in. Like, there's so much stuff that we need to fix that was like damaged during Trump and then these obstructionists in the House and in the Senate. But one of the main reasons we have to do that, and people don't focus on that, is we have to root out our own bad fruit. And what I mean by that is it's like when it comes to MAGA, the unintended benefit to corporate Democrats is you can put a bill through, you can vote for all the stuff that people want you to vote for, and when it don't go through, you could just say, "Hey, we couldn't do it because we don't have the majority. We tried to do it, but they obstructed it." So it's kind of like you really don't know who's for you because they like, "Hey, yeah, we voting for all the good stuff." But they know that it's not going to pass because of the Republicans and they buffoonery over here.
right,
When
right,
you take that element away, and it's like Democrats in there with a majority, and then you get to see, okay, who is going to vote for this? Who is going to vote for that healthcare bill? Who's going to vote for this? Who's going? That's how you really find out who has your back. And the only way that we can do that is if we give her majorities in both places.
right.
And then we can really get to see like who is corporate, who's rooting for them, and who is really trying to put policy in to benefit the middle class. And they do a good job performing in these hearings and stuff that they have. I mean, MAGA, they just dumb. So they really do make it look like they're going hard for us, but you can listen to AOC, you can listen to Jasmine Crockett, you can hear all these other people that's like, that ain't what they seeing behind closed doors.
Right.
So we have to root them out. And that's like my motivation is like, give her the majority in both chambers, and then let's see how they voting. Let's see what they talking about then.
Absolutely.
So that's,
Absolutely. When we were first talking about this, before all this happened and all this surge in support for Kamala, I got the impression why you like Kamala, you didn't think
mhm.
there was any way she could get elected. And I think you base that, in my opinion, you base that on what you know of racism and sexism in the country, the stuff you deal with, the stuff you see all over the place. You thought that would give her no chance of getting elected, and then Donald Trump would walk in the door. Didn't you kind of feel that?
Yeah, I did. I definitely did. I knew it was coming. And even now, it still gets me upset when I see some of this stuff and I hear some of this stuff. Um, I know that it's going to get worse, but it's kind of like what I didn't expect was how quickly people started to organize and rally behind her. And I really wasn't expecting Gen Z to just kind of like jump in there, especially when it comes to Palestine and Israel. And I'm like, she's not popular in that way. But I underestimated the fact that the American people was just kind of like starved for like some light. You know what I mean? Because Joe Biden, he's kind of like old, and it's like his gaffes, and it's like everything is so negative in the news. Everything is like dark and drab and just dreary. And then when you hear Trump talk, it's like the world is coming to an end. We're in a third world country. Everything sucks. You guys are going to burn in a fiery pit of hell if Joe Biden gets reelected. It's like everything was so negative and it's like such this heavy weight. But then you have Kamala coming in there and she's like laughing, she's smiling. And it was just like this breath of fresh air. And it's just, I really do think that we needed that. And I didn't consider the fact that other people needed that breath of fresh air, especially the young people. They just like, we got these two old people, whatever they decide, whatever they do, they're going to be dead before it impacts them anyway.
Right.
So they really did need someone that they could relate to. You know, you see her on TikTok dancing and stuff. It's like, she's somebody relatable. And I really didn't think I would see that, but it's glad to see it.
Well, the thing about it is that I think what people were starved for, especially with the likes of Donald Trump on the other side, they needed a fighter, a warrior,
Yeah,
someone to go out and kick some ass. And Joe, while he's smart and can have some interesting quips, he's not that kind of guy. Even if he was younger, he's not that kind of guy.
yeah,
Kamala is smart, articulate, a prosecutor, and she'll kick some ass too. In fact, I watched a video that she did, and it's from back a ways, but this got me to love her right away. And she says, um, we're trying to break through, and every time you break through, you get cut, and you got to come up to that door. And sometimes the door will open, and sometimes the door won't open. She said, but if the door doesn't open, you got to kick that fucker in. That's
yeah,
exactly what she said. I said, that's my girl.
yeah. You know what? The thing about her is she knows how to message
Yeah,
and
she
she
does.
also knows how to like lead and delegate. Like Trump is one of those people, his pot has his hand got to be in every pot. But she can set the tone. This is our message. This is what I need you guys to do. And everybody is staying on point with the messaging. So it's like already on like day 3, we know it's the prosecutor against the felon. You know what I mean? And so it's like we're hammering that in. And then they're even bringing up Donald Trump's age more and more. And I think part of what people don't understand about Biden is like, because I can relate to that, is because he's like so humble. And so it's like when you're giving him so much attention and you're like giving him praise, it's really hard for him to brag about himself. He's like, I'm the president of the United States. I'm supposed to help people. I'm supposed to make people's life better. Like, why am I bragging about something that I'm supposed to do? So I
Right.
think that was really hard for him to do that. Not Kamala. She can get on stage like we did this, and this, and Donald Trump ain't do none of that. So it's kind of like she doesn't have that problem, propping herself up and really showing what she's done. And I just don't think Biden had it within him to do that just because he was just so like humble. He just kind of wanted to do his job and really not be bothered like that. You know what I mean? So
Well,
I do think that the Republican Party is going to hate the fact that you don't have somebody who's just going to put their head down and do their job while you talk trash. I do think with her, she is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
oh,
And
she'll be a force.
yeah, I played because I talked to like the wild child because like her like running around with me. Um, I was talking to her like about John Lewis and like good trouble. And, sometimes in order to break barriers, you have to do certain things. You don't have to do it illegally, but you really have to kind of like push for it. And then I was showing her, I don't know if you remember that debate with him and Hillary Clinton. And Hillary was like up and she was like talking. And he was like following her. So she would move over here with the microphone. He would move over there too. And I
Oh,
was like, look how he's dominating her. I was like, and she is a powerful woman in her own right. But we know that he had put all of Bill Clinton's little side pieces in the audience in the front row. And so she was kind of like thrown off a little bit. And I was like, this would be a whole different situation if it was Kamala, because I think he would maybe be trying to follow her around the stage, and I could see her say, back up. You know what I mean? You have to push back against people like that. And I think she's the person that'll do it. I'm
You
looking
know,
forward to that.
the
If you
funny,
debate her.
the funny, yeah, I don't know that he will. He says he will, but he says a lot of shit. Now, the thing about it is I thought about you when I started hearing people talking about Kamala,
Mm,
because they kept saying that all these women were saying, it's like she's my auntie. And I was thinking about you and your auntie or your TT and
yeah.
how big a role they play in their lives and stuff. And that's kind of who she is. She's the one that is smart and nice, but you better not give her shit because she'll fuck you up.
Yeah. Okay. This is gonna be fun. When I'm on here, the wild child, she does watch the episodes that I'm on, and she gonna watch this, and she gonna be laughing. So like I was not happy when I got that phone call. I was trying to talk to her, and her grandmother took the phone, and she was like, "Yeah, she can't talk right now because she like high as a kite." And I was like, "All right." And anytime I'm feeling like just unbalanced, I always go to like my grandmother's gravestone, right? And so I just grabbed my keys, left my wallet, everything, and I just went there. And then my daughter, she was like, you got to go get her. And I was like, ah. So she had to drive me to Arizona to get her because we had to catch a flight and go somewhere else. And I was just pissed. I was not happy. And so I kind of like popped off on her a little bit. And then when I was leaving, because I was going to go get her insurance card from her grandmother, and my daughter, I could hear her saying, I tried to tell you she's not nice all the time. And why you playing with her like that? I don't know. She was just like, I suggest you just do what she say and she won't hurt you. She was like, come on, let's get your stuff. And she was like, I gotta pack right now. This is so quick. Like she was just trying to stall. And then I was like, why don't you act like you're running away? You could pack real quick when you're doing that. And then I'd like caught myself when I said that. And so I was just leaving the room to remove myself from that situation. And like my daughter just like telling her that. And I was just standing in the hallway, like shaking my head, kind of like laughing. Cause my daughter was like, just do what she says. She won't hurt you.
Well,
It was crazy.
that's what I say. That's what I always tell people. They say, "Well, old soul, she's a saint. She's an angel. She does this. We got to protect her." I don't think you have to protect old soul because
Yeah.
you put her in the wrong mood. Old soul will fuck some people up.
Yeah, I was not happy. I'm glad that I went. And there's like, I will always stop what I'm doing and be there for her or my daughter or my nieces or my nephews. It's like, that's not even like a question, but at the same time, it could be frustrating.
Yeah,
But yeah, I wouldn't have like not going to get her, but uh, I wasn't nice to her that first day, and but it was
but
cool after that because she
here,
said she didn't know why I got her. She was like, she's so mad at me, like, why'd you come get me? And I had to tell her like two things could be true at the same time. I could be pissed off at you, and yeah, you are in trouble. But it doesn't mean like I stopped loving you, I'm not gonna be here for you or anything like that. But I do think when she was at home with her parents, everything was like her fault. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
everything came back to her. And I try to let her know like you're a blessing, not a burden. And I tell her that all the time. But you can be mad and love you at the same time. And I don't think she really she just kind of wasn't used to like, yeah, she's mad at me, but she ain't gonna just like leave me hanging like that. And so you have to kind of like show up and make sure that you don't tell her that, you just show her that.
right,
But
right.
yeah,
Well,
one night.
just to remind folks, old or wild child was one of those women or young women or girls that needed reproductive health care. And she came and stayed with Old Soul, like a lot of young women do or girls do, and uh, she ended up staying a lot longer than was expected, and then ultimately, um, unofficially, but ultimately Old Soul pretty much adopted her. So now she's running, getting her out of trouble and taking care of her things. And it's admirable that you do that, but you got kind of a life too, Old Soul.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember when you told me, it was like when we got done recording, you like, she ain't leaving, right? it was just like you and my TT had said it and Uncle Cleo said it. And I'm like, mm-mm. When she get to Arizona, she is done. But I don't know how you would turn your back on a
Well,
child, first of all.
you
I
can,
couldn't
but
do that. And then I will never forget that I told her mother, like, you could go home. I'm gonna make sure she's okay. Like, she gonna be good. I promise you. And I don't see how you, even though her mother's a horrible person, because I thought I was gonna pop a vessel in my eye when I saw that heifer sitting in the church. And the guy that assaulted her was like in the pulpit. How do you sit there and just, I was so angry. I don't know what made me not act like that. Maybe because I knew I couldn't because she was already going through something. But I never in my life just wanted to, I think it was rage. It wasn't even anger. It was like at that moment, I don't think if I would have reacted, I don't think I would have been responsible for anything that I did. But
I
it was
I
my first time feeling rage. I
I
don't know how any parent does that. And I
I
think that's my soft spot is because she knowing that she didn't have a mother like my daughter did or my nieces did. And it's just like I don't know how anybody just leave their child hanging like that. I don't get it. But
I know you won't say this, but I know what you were thinking. You wanted to kill some motherfuckers.
I really did. I really did. Because I mean, if you could just think for 1 second that somebody in a church abuses their authority, impregnates your daughter, you have to flee the state with your daughter, and then the church welcomes this man back to the church around other children, and you are just sitting there. So it's like, yeah, he's a trash human being, but what does that say about you as like a woman, as a
And the
mother?
church.
Because it's in the church, because it's like if it was my niece or my daughter, especially my daughter, we have no business being in this church with somebody like that. And I don't know how they send him off to get, I don't know, they just pray that demon out of him or whatever it is that they say. And then he just comes back into the church and it's only been like what 6 months or so and he's back around children, but I guess the children are safe even though the teenage girls aren't safe. That's so weird. But I am super proud of her for getting up there and
Well,
calling it up.
I will tell you this, what we know about your daughter, what you've told us. I've never met her before, but what you've told us about her, if that guy even looked twice at her, she'd probably stomp him into a mud hole and then walk it dry, as Stone Cold Steve Austin used to say. Um, I
He
tell
would
you
have
what,
been on the back of somebody's milk carton.
yeah, no shit, no
I
shit.
don't understand how I don't understand like the churches, the pro-life churches, like, the women who are like protesting against us here. And it's like you would allow for these girls to go through stuff like this. And I know that's not the only church that happens in.
Oh no, no, of course not. Old Soul, we're going to take a quick break, and we've got more to talk about with the election coming up and some of the other shit going on. I want to talk about the assassination attempt too. I don't think we talked about that much, and there's some weird things about that. And I just wanted to talk about
Donald
that
Trump
with
is
you.
weird.
Donald Trump is a weirdo. There's no question, and he's dangerous. So
Yeah.
let's take a quick break, and we will be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Old Soul is with us today. If you're just joining us, Old Soul isn't really in costume. She's in kind of this handmaiden's tale thing because she was protesting in Arkansas. You're in Arkansas right now? Is that where you
Mm-hmm.
are? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. She's protesting in Arkansas in order to get the abortion question on the ballot. And they do this not so much for dramatic flair, but to kind of hide your identities because these crazy fucks in Arkansas will dox people. We talked about that earlier. If you missed that, you need to listen to the whole fucking show.
Yes. And
There
this
were
is a visual aid. And just imagine women and girls walking around like this. So you just look at me and see how crazy this look. Imagine us outside. I think it was like 90 something degrees today. And I was like, good Lord, how's y'all doing this? But you have to do it. You pull your little hoodie up right here in the back, and only thing they see is like your lips. That's it.
Well,
But that's how you gotta roll.
there were some things you wanted to bring up before we get back into some of this other stuff about voting rolls and suspensions and such.
Yes. So, okay, in Ohio, they are kicking 1 in 50 people off of the voter rolls there. And so you can actually go and see if you are um, kicked off of the voter roll. And then there's another website where you can go to if you are kicked off, then you can re-register. But it's time sensitive, so you just as soon as you can, you just check. And then I guess when you post the video, I could just leave it in the comment section. But I'm just trying to see what that website is. Oh, okay. So it's registration readiness dot ohio sos dot gov, and that's how you check if you're on the voter roll. And if you're kicked off, how you re-register is olvr dot ohio sos dot gov, and then you can re-register.
Yeah, definitely
Texas,
put those in the comments because
yes,
nobody's going to remember that.
1 in 50 they're kicking off. And
Why?
you already know
Is,
these are Democrats that they kicking off. I think they just kind of figured, hey, these are the people that's most likely to not vote for Trump, so we just gonna kick them off.
is it just
Texas.
arbitrary or is there a reason for it? Do they give a reason?
Okay, so what they said was the reason that they'll do it if you haven't voted like in the last 4 elections, right? So you got to think about it. These are not like primaries. These could be like any kind of elections in your city. So most people don't even pay attention to them. If you didn't vote like 4 consecutive elections, I don't even know if it's for like dog catcher, then they kick you off and then you have to re-register, which is
Wow.
weird. Texas, they kind of figured out a way around kicking people off the voter rolls. And what they're doing is they're suspending people from the voter roll. So you're not kicked off, but you are suspended. And then when you go vote, you won't be able to vote. And how Texas is doing it is they'll send you a letter in the mail. And if you don't like send that letter back, you're suspended. So like technically you're not kicked off, but you can't vote either. It's kind of like this in between gray area. So if you in Texas, normally you get junk mail, you don't pay it any attention. Open up them envelopes. And if you have anything in there about your registration or anything, you need to like fill that out and send it back so that they don't kick you off. Well, so that they don't suspend you. That's what they're saying is we didn't kick anybody off. We suspended them. And I think the reason that Texas is doing this now is because in 2020, when it came to Trump, they kicked like 100 and something thousand people off. And then Trump ended up winning by like 50,000, right?
Uh,
So they can't kick people off because too many people will be paying attention. So they're just suspending a bunch of people. And they're using the fact that you didn't verify your address as a way to like excuse you being suspended. And then they had tried to, what they were trying to do was say, hey, if you go get an ID or you go register or get your license renewed or whatever, when you go do that, then the DMV is going to ask, would you like to register to vote? If you say yes, they check the little box, boom, you registered to vote because they have your ID right there. They know your address, everything is cool. However, they escalated it and the Supreme Court was just like, yeah, you can't do that. So then they turn around and say, hey, you need ID in order to vote. So we're not going to let you register at the time that you get your ID, but then you have to have ID in order to vote. It's just weird how they're trying to manipulate it. But if you're in Ohio and if you're in Texas, just check. Especially if you're in Texas, just look at your junk mail. It's a pain in the butt, but just do it.
well, here's the thing about Republicans. What they should be doing is creating policy to attract voters, but they
Mm-hmm.
can't do that. So instead, they're trying to stop voters who would vote against them. And it's part and parcel to what Republicans do. They're obstructionists, they're cheaters, and they're losers. And I don't think this will pan out for them ultimately because when things change over in November, there's going to be a lot of people. I mean, there's going to be people in the federal level, but in the state level, that there's going to be some changes too. I don't know if Texas and Ohio are redeemable, but we'll see.
When I saw 1 in 50,
That's ridiculous.
I was like, how in the heck is that allowed to happen? But yeah,
Well, it's about who's in control, and it's the Republicans. And if you don't like it, you're going to have to vote the motherfuckers out, and you're going to have
yeah.
to vote big and get a big turnout to try to finally beat these fucks. Now, have we talked since that assassination attempt of Donald Trump? I don't
No.
think we have. Now, the reason I bring it up is because you're pretty insightful and you read into things pretty well and you have a true crime interest. And when I first heard that that assassination attempt happened in Pennsylvania, and I kind of saw it in passing where he was down and then he got up and walked off, immediately I said, um, that was staged because that sounds just like Donald Trump. And then when I heard that somebody in the front row actually died and a couple other people were seriously injured, I said, yeah, that's probably not staged. Nobody would go to that extent. Nobody would be that crazy. But then we start seeing all these anomalies and these weird current things that happening. A guy climbs up on a roof 130 yards away from Donald Trump, takes a pot shot. Nobody bothers to look. In fact, some people said they did see him, but they were told to do nothing. And he gets shot. He touches his ear. He goes down. And when he comes up, he's got blood on his face. Now, I always said, okay, if you think it's fake, there's one way to know if it's fake or not.
Uh,
Let me see the fucking ear. Because if you shoot an AR-15, a high velocity round, and it even nicks your ear, it's probably going to take off your ear or at least take a good chunk out of it. So we should be able to see that. And that would be verification that he, in fact, got hit by a bullet because he said he got hit by a bullet. Now, he didn't go and show his ear out, but the other day he was playing golf in a pro-am and they had a close-up video. Somebody was taking it on their phone or something. And you could clearly see both ears on Donald Trump. You could see there was nothing missing on the right ear. In fact, there wasn't even a scratch on the right ear. So to me, that seems funny. If you got hit by an AR-15 bullet, your ear isn't pristine. What's your
at
take on it?
first, at first I thought he was grazed and he was just putting extras on it. I mean, because he's Donald Trump, right?
Yeah,
But it's just like so many things don't add up. And it's like for your human side of yourself says there is nobody who is going to do something like that unless like he didn't have anybody behind him. You know what I mean? So if he
right.
was on the stage and he had just the audience in front of him and something like that happened, it would be like, yeah, I can see it. But with people behind him
Well, it's actually in front
and
of him. It was because it came from behind him.
I think what was not happening is people was not watching the local news. When I see stuff like that in different cities, the first thing I do is go to their local news. And their local news reported that there was like police officers like in front of Trump where he was at, and they got hit by like the glass off of the teleprompter or whatever. And so they were like cut up like the tip of his ear was, that's what they had, but like on their face and arms and stuff. So it was just the glass that like splattered and hit them. And I do think it was just a piece of glass that hit Trump, like it was the people in front of him. And how I'm sorry, I ain't trying to be funny, but his statement that he made when
I
he
think I know where you're going with this, but go ahead.
he said there was a lot of bloodshed or something. He said,
Yeah.
what the heck is your problem? First of all, I honestly I thought that he was grazed. And where I'm from, you basically if you out and you doing something you're not supposed to do and a bullet grazed you or whatever, you go to the corner store and you get you a black bag. In the black bag is like gauzes and all that stuff that you need. You go to Mr. Dang, I almost said the man name. But you go to you go to the Candyman house. He give you a couple of oxycodones or whatever. Then you go to Keisha house and she just patch you up. It's not that serious.
Yeah.
But then when I the next day he was golfing. Not only was he golfing, but both of his ears was out. He didn't
Yeah.
have a band-aid. He didn't have like a maxi pad on the side of his head. He didn't have nothing. It was just his ear was just on the side of his head like it always is. And then he showed up to the RNC with looking like an idiot.
Yeah. Well,
I
the thing,
think that I think it was glass that hit him. And then another thing, I don't know if people watch, but there's some YouTubers who do reconstruction. So they like reconstructed the Kennedy assassination. They reconstructed I don't know if you know, it was like a true crime. The Murdoch murders with his wife and
Right,
son, they
right.
reconstructed that. And so I ended up seeing where they reconstructed that Trump assassination attempt. And they had like, the way they built the head is like a human head with like our skin type and all that stuff. And then they shot the bullet to hit it like right on the tip of the ear. And like they had the distance and everything. And it took the dummy, it took the whole ear off.
Yeah,
And so, but then when it hit his ear, the dummy's head would kind of like move back. So the guys were saying not only does he have his ear, but his like neck didn't move or any of
no,
that. And so they were even laughing when they were doing the experiments because there's no way he could have been grazed or anything and still have his ear. So it's like, I do think that the guy who did it, I don't think he was in his right frame of mind. I do think it was mental illness. And I think that he was trying to make himself famous, make a name for himself because he was an incel and he didn't have any friends. Um,
what do
and
you
then
think about what do you
I'm
think about
giving
the
his dad the side eye
yeah,
because when he heard that that happened, he called 911 and said he thought that his son was the shooter. So you already know something is going on with your child, and there are weapons in the house for him to do that with. Like when we had the shooting out here in Vegas at UNLV, I didn't like go to my daughter's room and make sure her guns were there. I'm like, oh my God, is she okay? And I'm like calling, trying to find her. So if your instinct is to be like, oh crap, let me go check his room. Let me make sure that the guns are there. Then if you have to, that's your first thought, you don't need to have guns in your house.
right,
Period.
right.
Um, that's what I thought about it. The conspiracy theories, and it really does show that the Republican Party have no shame. And one of the things that I like about Kamala that I saw what was happening with Biden when he pulled his ads and all that stuff is I know that he would try to keep the temperature lower, so he wasn't going to hit Trump as hard as he was ramping up to hit him hard all the time. And I knew that he had been affected by that, even though Trump wasn't affected by him. MAGA wasn't affected by it. I do know that it affected Joe Biden, and so that would have like changed some of the language that he was using. And I said, if that alone is like mission accomplished, because he's not gonna be hitting him as hard as he pulling his punches basically.
What do you
Um,
think? What do you think about the theory that Trump staged it? What do you think?
Heck nah, Trump is a
Heck,
coward. Trump is like that type of person that's gonna be. I ain't gonna lie, I'm not even a coward. But if you come to me and say, "Hey, you need to win this election," we're gonna have like somebody shoot some bullets over your head. Make Okay, so we got three speakers that's gonna come up here before me. You need to start shooting bullets over one of their heads because you're not supposed to do that with me. Trump is not the type of person that will say, okay, let's do that. That sounds like a good idea. Because in his mind, it's like if something go wrong and I get shot, like he is so selfish that there is no way at all that he would have been in on it. If it was staged, I do think it was the people around him that did it. I don't think he had a hand in it because Trump not gonna stand there and let somebody shoot bullets over his head.
right, right, exactly.
He
And
crazy, but he ain't that damn crazy.
but we know the bullet didn't hit him. So here's the thing. I don't know what happened. My first thought is it isn't staged, but let me give you a couple arguments that I came up with to suggest maybe it was staged.
Let's go.
Um, if it was staged, let's just say that hypothetically,
Hmm.
it could have gone sideways and horribly wrong, and it was
Hmm.
fucked up. That's not hard to imagine with Donald Trump and anything he's involved in because everything gets fucked up. Then the other thing is Donald Trump willing to accept some collateral damage for his own ego?
Is that a question? Yeah.
Yeah, of course he is. And people will say that's ridiculous. He would never do that. And I give the example. Well, you remember COVID. He told us it was a hoax, it would go away. And then he did absolutely nothing with it. He disbanded the committee that worked on pandemics and got rid of the plan that Obama had them put together for it. He did absolutely nothing. And why did he do that? He did
Hmm.
that because he thought that little pesky pandemic would hurt his chances in the election if it got to be too big a deal. So by doing nothing, a million people died of COVID. Businesses were shut down. I don't care what anybody says. Had there been a real president in there, we wouldn't have gone through as much shit as we did with this pandemic.
Mm-mm.
But we did. A million people died. He didn't even blink. And going back to the other thing, he fucked up because that COVID thing probably did cost him the election. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that he or somebody around him set it up because they were kind of in a desperation mode. They needed Trump to look like a hero with all the shit that's coming down on him, the charges and stuff. And it was just too perfect where he goes down, comes up, he's got blood. Because I got to be honest with you, if he got hit with a bullet, you would see a spray of blood coming off his head when the
Yeah.
bullet hit, and you didn't see that. So he
Hmm.
goes down, he comes up, he's got the blood. They let him stand up, not knowing if there's another shooter, and raise his hand. And then the next day, less than 24 hours, there are t shirts and hats and mugs with his fucking fat red face on there with his hand in the air. I'm not saying it was staged by him. I'm just saying if it were anybody else, we'd say staged. That's crazy. But this is Donald Trump, and you have to ask the question. He's that fucking despicable.
You know, those people in the crowd, they were strangers. He don't care about them. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I can see that.
But it was on
And
TV. Why
yeah,
was
but
it
the
on
point of his
TV?
character is, you remember the school shooting with when the
Yeah.
children died, and
Yeah.
he was just like, "Yeah, it happened. You gotta get over it." This is like the same man who was saying during COVID, we got to sacrifice Grandpa. He didn't lived his life. This is the same. Like, these are strangers. These are people he don't know, and he don't care about them. But what lets me know that he is more than capable of doing something like that, when he was going to court and he was throwing his sons under the bus, just like he was running the company at that time. I don't know, I wasn't paying attention. Hey, and how come Ivanka ain't up here with us? Why she like he would throw his own mama under the bus if it meant that it'd get him back in that White House. I think the only thing he wouldn't do is tend to his ex-wife's grave. Like, that is just insane that they got that woman living like that or deceased like that. But he's more than capable of doing it. If it did happen, he wasn't in on it. Um, and I do think it proved how vain he was.
Yeah.
And I think also too, a lot of people get distracted by the blood, but they don't really understand that there are conditions that people have. Like if you're on blood thinners or something like that, it doesn't take much for you to bleed. That's an ear. That's just like cartilage, and
Yeah.
that's it. Like, your ear don't bleed like that normally unless you're on like a certain type of medication. And so I do think that that could have contributed to the blood that we saw, and he just played up to it because that's his natural instinct.
Mm-hmm.
Um, especially he was just like he had to put his heels on before he stood up. So I think his vanity is what led to him lifting his arm up like that. I think that's just a natural instinct of him to think about himself first. It's just it's crazy. We were getting followed and we were on our way to the police station. We're all in the car together, and I was like, is everybody okay? It was so weird to me that he didn't say, hey, is everybody okay? Is my supporters, like, he didn't even think about them.
Right.
That was so weird to me. I don't think he was in on it. If it was staged, it was the people around him. And I think he's aware of it now, but
Yeah.
at that moment, I don't think he knew. Mm-mm.
I would say this too, knowing somebody who's a narcissist, when they get put in that position where they're backed in a corner and they feel like they're helpless, which is how you would feel if someone took a shot at you.
Yeah.
When he stood up, what I saw in his face is the same thing I saw in my father's face whenever he was pushed in the corner. He was pissed off. He was pissed
Hmm.
off that somebody made him look weak. He was pissed off that somebody interrupted his wonderful speech. When he stood up and
Hmm.
put his hand up, he realized I'm alive. And he put his hand up and he was fucking angry. That's what was on his face, not fear, not empathy, nothing like that. He didn't care about what happened in the front. You did this to me and I'm pissed off, so fuck you. That's what I
Yeah.
saw.
Anybody who's lived with a narcissist, that's exactly how they are. I
Yeah.
do think that the Secret Service takes a lot of heat for this, and they should. They definitely should. But when I look at it, first of all, Trump completely corrupted them when he was in office. The people
Yeah.
that he has around him now, these are the people who don't live up to expectations of that agency. But I could imagine being assigned to someone like Donald Trump, like, oh, we're not going to do those safety measures. Maybe he don't want to pay for this. He don't want to pay for that. He want everything set up to look good. He want to get caught at a certain angle. He want to look taller than what he is. So I do think being around him, it gave them permission to be more lax and more lazy, just because those are his demands. We know on January 6th, when he was wanting to go to the Capitol, and the Secret Service was like, no, we're not going to do that. And they kept him in the car. Well, that person is gone. He surrounds himself with people that he can bully and push around. So I don't think that they take that with him, that they were taking precautions that they would take with Biden or Kamala or Obama or any of that. I
Right.
do think he has a culture around himself to where everybody is a yes man and they do what he says, whether it's safe or whether it's not.
Right.
Hopefully, they give him another detail with people who are a little bit more forceful. Like, we don't care what you say, we're here to protect you, and that's just what it is. But I do think that contributed to it. I did see his interview that he gave where he said Joe Biden and Kamala was like basically hogging all the Secret Service agents, and he didn't have as many as he normally do.
Well, they just beefed up the Secret Service because there was a credible threat from Iran to kill him. So this is an improved and beefed up Secret Service. You know, it reminds me of
But how do
this.
you hog Secret Service agents?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I don't know if people remember this. It's a little bit about arrogance with Donald Trump. He thinks he's Jesus. He thinks he's the king. And remember
Yeah.
on January 6th when they had I think they called them mags, where when you
Hmm.
walked through it detected whether you had a gun or not, or a
Yeah, the
weapon of some sort,
magnetometers.
magnetometers, right? And then
Hmm.
he said, take them out of there, let them
Yeah.
go. And he said, well, they could have guns. And he goes, they aren't going to shoot me. That's exactly
Hmm.
what he said. He doesn't imagine anybody disliking him enough to do something like that. Now, if it
Yeah.
wasn't staged, he learned a big lesson. I bet he's not going to be standing outside unprotected too much anymore.
Yeah. I did, and I enjoyed watching um the Judiciary Committee when they were questioning the head of the Secret Service.
Right.
First of all, it showed like the Republicans, like, I don't understand how anybody watches these people and take them seriously. They live for a soundbite that they could play on social media or that they could just play in a loop on Fox and Newsmax and OAN and all that stuff. Nancy Mace, I think that's her name. And she was just like, you're full of SHIT. This is bull. And I'm just like, wow. And then you turn around and you see AOC not only ask questions that leads her to the path that she wants to go on, um, but it was kind of like putting her in a corner because she said, hey, if this is the perimeter, then why is your perimeter not as wide as the range of the gun? Which makes sense when you think about it. If somebody can shoot you from 50 feet away, your perimeter needs to be within 50 feet. So why is your perimeter only like 25 feet? So
Right.
it was, to me, it was just showing how unserious that the Republican Party was. But then it was also showing that the Secret Service was like covering for him. They didn't want to say the type of person that he is. And then another thing too, so crazy. I didn't expect for law enforcement to sit there and just defend AR-15s.
Yeah.
Like when he asked this question, hey, does having a bunch of AR-15s and weapons of war on the street, does that make your job easier or harder? Everybody knows it's harder. But I do think the Democrats did a very good job of showing not just to us, but to MAGA as well. Is if we have these guns out here, your savior and Jesus Christ, Trump, could get assassinated. So this is a problem, which I think was a good way of making it personal to them. That it's like, oh, this could happen to somebody I just like look up to. For them to take it a little bit more seriously. And I did see people just like, well, yeah, we need hunting rifles and this type of stuff, but the AR-15s, we don't really need them. So that kind of changed that conversation a little bit. And I thought that was kind of smart.
You know, it's interesting at the RNC, the convention, they were giving away door prizes.
Yeah.
one of the door prizes was an AR-15. Oh, that didn't age well.
So I learned, okay, so it's crazy. One of the organizers here, I forgot what they're called, but you know, in wrestling, there's like these wrestlers that like the big guys come and like they just beat them up real quick. They're not like big names or nobody's just random people in the ring. But anyway, her son does that. And I guess like her brothers, like they're all into wrestling. And so I know why we don't like Hulk Hogan because he is very, very racist.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
but what she said is the reason that most people in the industry they don't like Hulk Hogan. I had no idea of this. Is that I guess Ventura, that wrestler, he
Jesse
was
Ventura.
behind, yeah, he was behind the scenes trying to help them organize a union.
Right.
And I didn't know this either, but WWE is the only sport outside of boxing that is not unionized. They just don't have a union. She said they have to pay for their own airfare, they have to pay for their own cars, their trips, they have to pay for all that stuff out of pocket. They are not reimbursed for it and they really don't make that much money. They just do it because they just like the sport. So anyway, he was behind the scenes trying to get them to organize so that they can get a union. Hulk Hogan went and told management that this was going on. And Ventura ended up getting fired. That year at WrestleMania, Hulk Hogan made more money than all of the big name talents combined.
Right.
So he was rewarded for snitching, and I had absolutely no idea. Like, there's people who just cannot freaking stand Hulk Hogan, and I thought it was just like people that didn't like races, but they was just saying a bunch of stuff about him. I had no idea. I didn't follow him like that. I know he had an affair with his best friend's wife, but the rest of the stuff that they was telling me about this man, I had no idea.
Yeah,
And
Hulk
it was
Hogan is
so
a piece of shit.
yeah, and they propped him up. Like for me, when I was seeing it, I was like, "Oh, this is cartoonish. This is clownish." But he a racist. It's fitting for the RNC. But the rest of the stuff, like, I didn't know. But to see him being propped up and praised and all that stuff, after I found out, like, it's not just my community. He like that with everybody. It was kind of weird that they like was cheering for him like that. He's a trash person.
Well, when you look at Kid Rock and you look at Terry Bollea, who's Hulk Hogan, he started his career in Minnesota at the AWA, so I was familiar with him early on. But
Yeah.
it was like a tractor pull. Hulk
Mm,
Hogan ripping his shirt, and it was absolutely ridiculous. And now the Republicans are pissed off because they've been pushing to try to discredit Joe Biden, and
yes.
they don't think past the end of their nose, so they pointed all their advertising and all their merch and all their arguments against Joe Biden. And as we were talking about before, Joe Biden did a masterful job by stepping aside after the RNC, after they wasted all their money,
Yeah.
and don't have any attack on Kamala. Um, the whole thing was just ridiculous. And now what they want to do, they go, oh, that's not fair. That's unconstitutional. Well, the fact of the matter is fair. The
Yeah.
Democrats haven't even chosen a nominee officially. And this is about Democrats. Democrats control their own shit. It's not like the
Mm-hmm.
federal government can tell them what to do. They do what they do because that's what they want to do. And the idea that they are going to come out and try to sue them for it is just noise. They can't sue them. It's ridiculous and it's
Yeah.
it's embarrassing for them. I mean, it's so stupid. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. We had a round table, and I was in this weird space of being kind of sad, upset, but then pissed off at the same time. But we were talking to like women, they vote for Republicans or whatever. And these are like diehard Trump supporters. And it's like normally I try to have a soft approach because I do feel like these people live in a bubble. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I was just angry. But anyway, so she was talking, this one woman was talking about that. And so I told her, I was like, you guys think that Trump is playing 3D chess? And she's like, yes, of course. He's so smarter than Biden, blah, blah, blah. I was like, and you think Joe Biden is old, decrepit, and he gonna die at any moment? She was like, pretty much like, yeah, we all know that. You guys just cover it up. I was like, so how is he playing 3D chess? And he had no contingency for Biden, and she didn't understand what I was talking about. So I told her, if he thinks that Joe Biden can drop dead any minute, one foot on a banana peel, the other one in the grave, why didn't he have a backup for when Joe Biden dropped dead? Then he has a way to go after Kamala. And then I was like, this is what happened when you run a campaign just attacking one person. You run a campaign with no policy. You run a campaign with like nothing that's going to help your base or anybody else for that matter. But not only that, but if you think he's not going to make it to the election, why don't you have a plan in place for Kamala? How is that playing 3D chess? And she got up. She walked out of the room and other two little homegirls went with her. And I felt bad because I know the organizer had worked hard to put that together. And I was like, hey, I am so sorry, but I couldn't sit here and listen to that crap. And she was just like, no, so when are you coming again for the next roundtable? I was like, look, if y'all think I'm coming back to Arkansas, y'all are crazy. Like, I'm here to help out for like a few days, and that's it. But they could not handle when you confront them with the truth.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that's the best way to go at them because it did like they literally got up and left the room. So it cut off the conversation, but I'm like, maybe that planted a seed in their head, or maybe they just
No,
gonna go outside and tell themselves whatever they want to. But it cut the conversation short because you can't say that he's so smart because his uncle taught at MIT in the 1940s and that trickled down through him and now he's a genius and he plays 3D chess and Biden and Kamala are so dumb
what
because you
I,
have no backup plan for Kamala if you think, and especially if you think Biden is walking around in some kind of bodysuit. I guess he is a lizard underneath his skin. I don't know. Um, it really does prove that these people live in an alternative reality. And I do think with the GOP, they were not expecting for that to happen. And it's not, it's like I don't know, like a bunch of children. It's not fair. They shouldn't have did that. We spent all our money on Biden. You didn't have to spend your money on Biden. You could have like ran ads. Like if you think he has done more for this country than any president in history, why doesn't he put his accomplishments in an ad and put it out to the American people? And I
yeah.
did ask her that. I was like, what are his accomplishments? And she was like, well, he helped America more than anybody else. I said, then he should have absolutely no problem making a 90-minute ad with his accomplishments in it. Why is it that the only ad he puts out is attacking Biden? That's it. That's nothing else. Where's his accomplishments? Like I want to see it on paper. Put it in an ad.
Well,
And he can't do that because
no,
he
he
don't have
can't.
no. What are you gonna say? My policy is Project 2025, Agenda 47. What the heck?
Well, I was scrolling through TikTok yesterday and I don't belly laugh, but I had to belly laugh. This was before Joe Biden did the speech. And I was watching this guy. He was obviously a Trump pumper, had the fucked up beard and had the flag behind him. And he was saying, Joe Biden's actually dead. Joe's dead. And they offered to give Kamala the oath of office to be president, and she said no. And then just to substantiate it, they also asked two other people. What two other people can you ask? Kamala's the only choice. And then he said, and then tomorrow, meaning today, Mike Johnson will be the vice president or president, vice president. And then Donald Trump will win easily in November. Now, I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. I just went to the comments and I said, that is hilariously dumb.
Yeah.
And you know what? I got a fucking violation for that. And I wrote a letter to TikTok. I said, Jesus Christ, I got people saying horrific things, threaten me multiple times a day. And you're
Mm-hmm.
going to give me a violation for that? I got people that are my imposters, 15 of them, using my face, my my videos, and my name. And you say it's not a violation. I tell this dumb fuck that he's dumb, and you're going to give me a violation on that. I said, I'm getting, if you want to push us out, that's fine. I'll just stay on YouTube and I'll be fine. Fuck you. And it really frustrated me. But these people are so ignorant. The only thing you can really do, old soul, is what I found out is do what you did. You can't argue with them. You can't change their mind. You can't um, enlighten them in any way because they are unenlightenable. And
Yeah.
so all you can do is put them in a corner and shut them up and make them go away. Take away their platform. That's all you can do. And it's not enough, but that's all you can do with dumb fucks.
Yeah. Like it is sad. It is so sad. But I think I just haven't had the opportunity to be around diehard Trump supporters like that. The the ones that I'm used to is just like, hey, we don't really care. We're gonna vote for him anyway. Like those, I just want to, piss off the libs type of people. Like, I don't care if my
Yeah.
taxes get raised. I don't care if my child can't get an education. We just want to piss y'all off. Like, I'm used to that type of Trump supporter. But being here, you get like when you see them at the rallies, it's like they cartoons. But when you see these people in person, they are dead serious. Like they really believe this stuff.
Right.
It's
These,
it's sad, but at the same time, it's kind of like, how did you get there? Because you know that you have to have tuned out everybody and went against like your basic instinct, logic, common sense. And I'm thinking most people that get caught up in cults, they're like vulnerable at that time. They're going through something, and it's just kind of like a place to feel important. And then you're
yeah.
like on the inside. So I know how to get wrapped up in it, but it's kind of like it's at a point where you just can't ignore it. And I think seeing it up close firsthand, I don't have the patience like I used to because I
No,
think at this point it's a choice for some of these people.
it
So
is. And when I see these people wanting to own the libtards, it reminds me of when I was 7 and I was a little asshole. And I had my brother who's a year younger, and we'd be sitting in the back seat and I'd be doing this. I go, I'm not touching you. I'm not
yeah.
touching you. I'm not touching you. Um,
Did
we
you
got to,
see? Okay, so did you see in the House the impeachments that they have against Kamala? And I couldn't make sense for it. So I'm sitting down, I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking about it. And so what they're playing, and it reminds me of being like a child, especially with my youngest brother, because we will always like sneak in the freezer and get like snacks in the middle of the night. And
yeah.
the plastic bags, they sound so loud at 12 o'clock at night. So you're trying to like ease it open and that type of stuff. So you're like, okay, I'm gonna go here, watch grandma, make sure she's not paying attention. Like that's what we would do. And it seemed like the kind of plan that maybe the Road Runner was set up to try to catch the Wile E. Coyote or something,
Yeah.
because they're like, okay, what we're gonna do is we're going to make Kamala 25th Amendment Joe Biden. And keep in mind, they're going to do all of this in a couple of months, right? And then when she's in charge, before she can select a VP, we're going to impeach her, get her out of the way, and boom, Mike Johnson is the president. And then he go, and I'm like, this makes absolutely no sense. I
Mike
don't know if
Johnson
it's
won't
just,
be the Speaker of the House after January 3rd.
yeah, I don't know if it's like for show or, and this is a serious question. I'm not even joking. Do you think that that is a legitimate plan that they've made? Like they're that desperate, they're going to go with the Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote plan, or is it just signaling to the base? I don't really know because it seems like it's a plan. It's a plan there. You can see that this is a plan. They thought about it, they put it on paper, but it's a dumb plan. So I don't know how I feel about that one. I'm confused.
I think a lot of what they do is for show because they keep failing, you know. After you fail that many times, I don't know why you continue to do it. And if they try to impeach Kamala, it's not going to be till after the election. And what are they going to do when they don't have the majority in the House or the Senate? Then it goes nowhere, and there's nothing to get. They couldn't find. They spent 2 years looking for evidence on Joe Biden, and they never even brought the impeachment to the floor. So I think it's more for show. We got to talk about this with Kamala now. She's on a roll. She collected $120 million in a couple of days. The excitement behind her is big. And now the big question is she's got to come up in the next 2 weeks with a vice presidential candidate. I got to think that you have some thoughts on that.
My first instinct was,
Hulk Hogan.
what? Heck no, no. Did you notice when he was ripping his shirt off, he had a shirt on under it? So you
Right.
know you are what you used to be. But anyway,
Like
um,
wearing long pants when you go swimming and a t shirt. You're hiding something, bitch.
I do have to tell him thank you for sparing us from seeing that.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, so my first instinct was Midwest white military experience, something like that, to kind of like appeal to, and then somebody like a little youthful, because we do see that younger people, they are looking forward to having that torch passed to them. And so
Right.
they do want somebody who's more vibrant, more youthful. I think that's a good idea. However, the candidates are all so good. I don't think she can go wrong either way. But there was one person that I just fell in love with, and that was Tim Walz. Like,
Tim who? Oh, Tim Walz.
yeah, that's your governor, right?
Yeah, that's my governor, and he's a great governor, and he would be a great choice. He's not, I don't know if he's young enough, but the shit he's
Yeah,
done in Minnesota has been unbelievable. And he doesn't have a lot of name recognition, although he is the head of the governor's group. He's the head of the
his
governors of all the governors in the country.
his his age is his only downfall. It's just like even like there's people who ask me like when I look at certain people like him and I'm just like I could hang out with him and have so much fun.
Yeah,
It's
he's a
like
good guy.
I was raised by old people. I didn't even know what a toilet was until I started going to school because I was saying commode. And my
Right.
teacher was like, what the heck is a commode? But anyway, when I saw him, like he is so like quick with it. I know he's like 60, I think, but
Yeah.
he was so quick with it. He was so funny. I liked his accent. And I seen the interview that he had did on Fox when he was telling the Republicans to mind their own damn business. But then when I saw him on MSNBC and he was like, look, Trump and MAGA, they weird. And then he said that, when he went to high school, his graduating class was 24, 12 of them was his cousin. I was like, this is amazing. And then he said that they are some He-Man woman hating club.
I love that too.
The last thing where he was like, and it really it makes sense when he says it because they always talking about, school vouchers. And he said they are talking about private schools. Where the heck are you gonna find a private school in a town of 400?
Yeah.
This is the type of person that I think anybody could take it to JD Vance, but this is the type of person that could just beat up on him so bad. But at the same time, he's so likable that you won't feel bad for JD. I just see him as like the type of person because I think that Kamala can't turn into like the angry black woman. So
No.
she does need somebody there that can throw out them one-liners, punch them hard, make like embarrass them. And I think this guy would just embarrass the crap out of him. I just loved him so much. But I know they're going for a certain age and a certain look. So I know that's going to take him out of the running. But I just liked I
Well,
was like going back watching all of like anything I could find about him. I started watching it. I started reading it. That's how I know he's 60 because I was like looking up his birthday and everything. But at the same time, the other guys can do that too. Pete could put them in a place very quickly.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't think she can go wrong. But
Well, Tim
your governor
Walz
won my heart.
Tim Walz is a former teacher. He was a teacher.
Yeah,
And Tim Walz, what he did in Minnesota is comparable to what Joe Biden did in 4 years here. They got so
yeah,
much done, so much done. And Tim Walz is truly one of the most effective Democratic governors in all the country. He would be a
yeah,
good choice. And he is 60, but then so is
hmm,
Kamala. Kamala's going to be
yeah.
60 in October, so they'd be about the same age. So that isn't out of the realm of possibility.
She just
Uh,
looks younger though.
she looks younger, but I think somebody else talked about Josh Shapiro, who is
Yeah.
in Pennsylvania. He's really good, really popular, good speaker. Uh, I was watching somebody on TikTok, and they said there's this guy, my dude, and he's got a huge following. And he said I first thought Shapiro would be the good one, but he hasn't been in office very long, and we don't know much about him, and we don't need some
Yeah.
shit coming up 3 months before. And then they talked about uh, Mark Kelly. Now
Mm,
he's got to be around 60 as well, but he has
hmm.
some things going for him: military, astronaut.
Yeah.
His wife Gabby Gifford. He's in a border state that
Yeah.
might give her
Yeah.
some strength with the border because he really actually pushed against the Democrats in their border strategy. So that might give him some possibility. I think they would like him younger. I think Pete Buttigieg would be great. I think he's still a little too young. AOC is obviously way too young. There's Roy Cooper down in North Carolina. He's a little older too, but he's really good. Somebody said something on TV, and I think this makes sense. As far as picking a VP to help you win a state, they haven't really been doing that lately, and it hasn't really worked. I mean, Obama didn't need Delaware when he picked Biden. He picked
Hmm.
Biden because he offered some things that he didn't have, like experience in foreign policy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's why he picked him. Um, and so, um, maybe what somebody said on TV, and I can't remember who it was. He said, "You look at the relationship between Kamala and Joe Biden.
Hmm.
She needs somebody that she can have that kind of relationship and hang out with. And
Yeah.
maybe a Tim Walz would be that guy, even though he may not be the one that people would pick. But she needs somebody that she can trust to be president if need be, and that she can work with and that can bring some things to the table that she can't. So it's going to be interesting to see who she picks."
I'm looking forward to the chemistry between them. Some of my favorite moments with Obama and Biden was them just kind of like sitting down chilling, and Biden would have his aviators on. Obama is sitting there chilling, you know what I mean? And they're just like chopping it up, laughing, having a good time. And then I was thinking like the youthfulness that Kamala is bringing back to the White House when you see like those old photos of Kennedy, like he's sitting at the desk and like the children are under the desk playing, there's like a dog running around and stuff. It's just kind of, and or you can see them on the lawn playing. And Obama and Michelle brought that back too, because you could always see like, the girls, they're doing their stuff. It's just kind of like that youthful energy. I do think that she needs to do that, but she could go with someone her age or older, just as long as they have like that kind of connection. Because when you
Right.
have a connection with someone, you kind of feed off of each other. Um,
You know what
I
I'm
didn't
looking?
see that connection with Trump and Pence. It was
No.
always
Well, he
kind
tried
of
to
like
kill him. He
Pence
tried to kill
before they broke up.
him.
Trump was definitely the dominating person in that group. And it's just kind of like Pence was like his little flunky, his errand boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? I heard you ask why did he pick JD Vance? And I think I know. I think that okay, the base they don't know that Trump don't believe none of this stuff. He don't care. He's fake. But the powers that be, they do. And so I think that they was pushing they couldn't get anywhere with Trump, so they started leaning on his kids and his like little his inner circle to put JD there because they really did want somebody who can effectively push through Project 2025. They know Trump can't do it. Trump
Right.
is that type of person like, yeah, I'm gonna do it as soon as I come back from McDonald's. And then you never see him again for the rest of the day.
Right.
But I do think they wanted to put someone there who would be focused and who would be diligent and can get that plan through. And I think also they needed a true believer there as well. Just in case something happens to Trump, this is somebody who really does believe in that and will continue to do that if something happened to Trump. So I think that's how JD Vance got there. I just,
But
it's too bad
now,
he's a stud. You know what I mean? Like,
but now the picking of JD Vance, they're getting buyer's remorse now. They're realizing it's not helping them much. You know, the thing about overturning Roe v. Wade, he's more right wing than Donald Trump is.
mhm.
Staying in a marriage, even if it's violent, women should stay home and cook. These are all things that are going to work against them. I think what they were trying to do, they wanted Donald Trump to back off the abortion and stuff like that helps. But they needed somebody that was hard edged to keep the evangelicals happy because if Donald Trump backs off, the evangelicals are going to get mad. And
Yeah,
then they said, "Yeah, but we got JD." Now
yeah. Hmm.
JD's been a senator for 2 years. Um, he doesn't know shit about shit. He's the kind of guy that will just say whatever he has to get his way, and he's not doing well. I mean, I've heard people say that they're going to try to get rid of him. I don't know if they can. I don't know who they could bring in that would be any better, to be perfectly honest with you. But whoever has to
This
go head to head in a debate with JD Vance, that could be interesting too.
Okay, this is their fault. This is
Yeah,
their fault. Because when you vet someone, you're not supposed to say, because you can go with someone who doesn't have baggage, especially within the Republican Party, but they still believe in Project 2025. They still want to take away rights, and they are diligent about pushing that plan through. I don't know why these people thought that JD would just come in there. Like, okay, maybe they won't know who he is if he loses weight and grow a beard. Like, you are not Superman. You can't put glasses on and then we be like, oh my gosh, who is this guy? We know who you are. You
Right.
are on tape saying the most disgusting things about women, and it's just he's just the most grossest person. So it's like if you are seeing that on, it's not like you have to dig for the footage. It's on YouTube.
Well, well, and
But I
here's
think that for them, they're so sexist and racist that they don't think that that's a problem. And that's
no.
where they messed up at. But I don't
Well,
I
they
don't
did.
think that they're going to get rid of him, and the reason is because Trump would have to say, I surround myself with the best people. I did my homework. I checked him out. I personally picked him for my VP. And then he has to turn around and say, yeah, I made a mistake. He's not going to admit that he made a mistake. JD isn't going anywhere. I think he's stuck there unless they tell him to fake cancer or something, and then they could, weasel out of it that way.
Well,
But I really don't think that if Trump has to admit that he was wrong, he's not going nowhere.
well, they did vet him. They said white supremacy, check. Misogynist, check. Sexist, check. Anti-Semitic, check. Yeah, you hit all the boxes, dude. You're in.
But they didn't realize that. How do they not know how racist their base is? This man's wife is Indian.
And
Her
they're
skin is brown. Her skin is like the color of my skin, right?
right, right.
His children are biracial and they look like they have more ethnic features. And you know what? I could never be married to nobody like that because you can tell that he is clearly trying not to show pictures of his family. And this is supposed to be a party of family values. We go get in here, you get a wife, you have all these kids. You're supposed to showcase that. And he's trying to cover them up. I don't get it, but how did they not know that their base would have a problem with her being Indian, having ethnic features on your children, and your children having Indian names, and your wife is brown? How did you think that you were going to come into a party full of the Proud Boys and straight up KKK members, the most racist people in America? How did they think that was going to play out?
Well, and I knew that's why they would never have Nikki Haley as the candidate. She's
Okay, but
brown.
you should have went
She's
with
Indian.
Nikki Haley if you was going to say, you know what, yeah, we gonna give an ethnic person a try.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I don't feel sorry for his wife either. She's a lawyer and
Hmm.
she clerked for Brett Kavanaugh when he was a appellate court judge, and she was a clerk for John Robert too. So she's no better than I don't know. Apparently it's okay if you're brown if you're just the help, but not the
Yeah,
second lady.
yeah, but you know what? I think about, I don't feel sorry for her or him, but they do have children. And I could just imagine those children being in just an environment within the Republican Party, and your father is like moving and shaking and trying to make a name for himself. How you would have to feel about yourself, the way you looked, and your name and your culture, how that would affect a child mentally. But now you're going to times that times like 1,000 because
Right.
now he's the VP to Trump. And these are the people that you're surrounded with constantly. I think personally, I don't agree with like sending your child off to a boarding school and not having any connection with them. In this instance, I don't think those children need to be in the house. They would be better off in Scotland than they would be here.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
understand how you do that to children.
What I don't
Ah,
understand is how JD doesn't realize that when they lose this election, his life is pretty much over and he's 40 years old. I mean, try to
I
get another job. Nobody's going to want to touch him after they get destroyed in November. He's going to have to write some more books under a pen name because nobody's going to buy the books with that fucking name on there.
please, that man gonna be worse than Mike Pence. He need to go into the witness protection program. He not gonna be able to go nowhere like that.
He should write a book
And then
called he should write a book called Trump LaFuck Elegy. That might be a good one.
and here's the thing. So they're already blaming him. They're saying stuff like he's bringing Trump down, and they. Oh, but I've been attacking him too. But everybody's like going after him, attacking him, his wife, and his children. Like, hardcore attacking them because he is making Trump look bad. At what point do people say, you know what, maybe Trump picked the wrong person?
Yeah.
Like he has no responsibility in this at all. That's what baffles my mind is ugh, look what JD is doing to Trump. He should have never been picked. But they stop one sentence short of why did Trump pick him? They
It,
don't ask that question. That is baffles my brain. This is
it's,
he's not a grown man. He's like literally he's a senior citizen. He
yeah.
gets the 2x2 at Denny's for $5 with a free coffee. And
Yeah.
he's not responsible for his actions. Like that is in his choices.
Well,
This is wild.
it's a mental illness, I think clinically known as Trumplafuckism, and it's terminal. So we just have
Trump
to wait.
derangement syndrome.
We just have to wait this out. We're going to wrap things up here in a sec. I just want to ask you what you know now about Kamala and how it's all going and all the excitement behind her. What do you see happening in November? How do you think that's going to go down?
I actually feel hope and optimism. And I'm gonna be doing every single thing that I can, whether I'm in like the most racist hick town I have ever seen in my life, whether we can follow by I've been I know this is rude, but I started calling them the townspeople. And
Yeah,
so everybody else that's protesting, we just call these people the townspeople. But I really do think that if we all like pitch in, and here's the thing, I think the good thing about this is this timed so perfectly because we only have so much time until the election, right? So
right,
we don't have enough time for the energy and the motivation to wear off. We don't
right,
have time for that. We just
right,
got to keep going and going and going. And that excitement is not going to die down. The smartest thing that she could do is drag out her VP pick. So everybody is like this like excited, anxious anticipation of who she's gonna choose. So as long as she can just like drag that out as far as she can, that'll keep overshadowing a lot. Um, I'm looking forward to it. I just I know if you think I don't know if you've seen Laura Loomer's post. Um,
no, I haven't. I
I
don't read
think
that bullshit.
her very first post that she made when Kamala was like endorsed by Biden. If you don't read any of her posts, read that one. And that is a glimpse into what is coming. Before I came on here, I was listening to somebody on Fox News and he called her the two girl. And that's just basically saying a girl
Haktua
that
girl, the original Haktua girl. Yeah,
yeah. And you like before we filmed that headspace that I was in when I was upset, that's the video that I had just watched. And I was like, how do I get on here and talk to Boomer? Like, I'm not gonna be able to do it. That is like the tip of the iceberg. And I think we all should prepare ourselves for that. I think what's gonna get me through it is knowing that most of people in America, they seem to be disgusted by that.
right.
Like black, white, whatever. I've gotten upset a couple of times at some of the stuff they said. And the women here, like, we all in the same boat. we Um, but they were just like, hey, we are with her. We have her back. One of the women, she was like, you know what? We should have stepped up when Clinton was running. And for some reason, as white women, we didn't do that. And she was like, we are not going to let Kamala Harris like not win this election.
Right.
And the other white lady next to me, she's like, her name is actually Karen. And she was like, yeah, because you don't want to piss off a room full of Karens. So I think that everybody is motivated, but I do think that it's bringing women, just all of us together with one common goal. And I don't know if you've been seeing the Zoom call. So they had a Zoom call with
Right.
Black men for Kamala. I was lucky to be on the Zoom call for Black women for Harris, and that was pretty cool. And in case the people couldn't make the Zoom or they didn't get an invite. So they were telling us that these are the rumors about Kamala. These are things that people have accused her before in the past. This is what it is. So we need to be prepared when they come trying to spill this crap again. And so like, and then they actually walked through and explained the situation for each one of these things. There's a rumor that she kept a Black guy in jail because she didn't want to test his DNA. She tested his DNA twice, and it didn't exonerate him. When
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom came in, he tested it and it still didn't exonerate him. So
Right.
he's guilty. However, that's not the narrative that they are going to say. So we just need to be like ready to just like, hey, here's the article, here's the facts, this will happen, look for yourself. So
Right.
the goal is to not let anything stick to her. And that's what our goal is. And then I know you got like white women listening. I can't remember the name of it, but there is a Zoom call tomorrow and it's just for white
You mean
women who want to
today?
support
You mean
Kamala.
today? Because
Oh
this is
yeah,
airing Thursday.
it's on the 25th. I can't remember the name of it,
Well, that
but
is tomorrow.
yeah, if you go to I think it's um Tabitha Speaks Politics and go to her community tab, she actually has the flyer there. So if you want to get on a Zoom call, it's just like white women who just really want to support her and the things that they can do and the role that they can play in it. Because what the Republican Party is trying to do is just kind of divide us by saying, like, she's a DEI hire. So they're trying to make white women feel like, yep, they're choosing a black woman over you. And they're only choosing her because she's black. That was the whole point of Trump and the whole black jobs thing is, yep, these Mexicans are coming and they're taking your jobs. Black people, you're not going to have jobs because of these Mexicans. So they're trying to pit everybody against each other. And so I think it's a good idea to give each group of people their own space to kind of like talk, vent, and figure out a strategy of how to come together and make sure we all have one common goal and like one common enemy. And we are not each other's enemy.
Right.
So if they want to join that Zoom call, like check out her community tab. She has the flyer up there. Jump on that Zoom call and yeah, we should be good. I'm hoping that all of the women, black and white, can have a Zoom call together, but we'll see. But it really is just trying to like get everybody together in a safe space, talk about your issues, and then come together and be like, all right, this is what we need to do together. So
Well,
I had forgot to mention that earlier, but they could jump on that Zoom. I think we have like 44,000 or something. It took a minute because they had to call Zoom like, hey, we need to let some more people on this call. And we were just like raising money and stuff. So it was a good thing. It's a good thing. I think she's going to be all right because I didn't think this many people would have her back, but I didn't think this many people would be so turned off and disgusted by the like blatant racism. And
yeah.
they've been getting away with that. And that's been their superpower, but it's turning more people off than it is on. And I think
Yeah.
that that's going to play a huge factor. Like the more they get racist, the harder it's going to get for them. Even when the leaders of the Republican Party came down and said, "Hey, we got these cards right here, these little cheat sheets. Every time you think about saying something racist, say this instead,
Yeah.
right?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And the first thing they do is come out of that meeting and call her a DEI hire and all this other kind of stuff. And they cannot help themselves but to be racist. It's insane to me. It is so insane to me that they just can't do it.
I think the racism and the misogyny and the sexism is going to help the Democrats because people
It
are
is.
disgusted by it. They've been told not to do it, but they can't help themselves. They do that. That with the energy and the excitement behind Kamala Harris, I believe that that is there because people are tired of the darkness, the chaos, and the
Yes.
trauma that they've gone through for 8 years. They see a light at the end of the tunnel with her. And then you throw in the fact that what Donald Trump's going to go through over the next few months. There's a lot of trouble for him. There's the sentencing. There's all kinds of shit. I will tell you this, in my opinion, and it's only worth my opinion, I think Kamala not only wins, but she wins very big, decisively, and that changes the whole climate in this country, at least starts us on that path. We're going to find the sunshine after being in the darkness so long. I really believe
Yeah.
that.
I do. Yeah, I really do think, and I think one of the biggest factors in this is going to be Donald Trump. I think when it was with Biden, Biden is out here, he hustling. He trying to like travel and, coalesce and get everybody together. And Trump, all he really much had to do was like golf, be at Mar-a-Lago whenever he felt like it, hold a rally, and then he could like talk trash about Biden, point out his gaffes, say this, say that. He didn't really have to do too much because Biden was such an easy target. He was so easy for them to poke fun of. Um, when I saw the rally, his first rally, I don't know if he did it earlier today, but he like froze up on stage. And so it looks like he knows that he's going to have to actually campaign and put himself out there more. When it was with Biden, I think they were kind of like keeping him back a little bit,
Right.
but he has to be out there front and center, and it just shows who he is in full display. And when I saw that, he froze and he couldn't say abortion, and the people in the crowd were looking confused. I think the more that he's out there, he's just going to be a constant reminder of what we went through during his administration, and he's going to just
Yeah.
turn people off.
Yeah. I don't see how he even comes close to winning. Well, old soul, thank you for joining us and taking the time out of your day. I know you're busy. I don't know. You're in Arkansas, right? See,
Yeah.
when you had the Handmaid's Trail, I didn't know you were in Arkansas. When you had the Handmaid's Tale, I'm going, oh God, she's into role playing. Fuck.
Not that kind of role playing. I'm an
No.
adult.
Anyway, old soul, thank you very much, and
Thanks.
we'll talk.
And
We'll
don't
talk.
forget Ohio and Texas.
Right.
Check the voter
Absolutely.
registration. Don't let them kick you off. Don't do it.
We got plenty to talk about. We'll talk with Old Soul again next week, and just stay in touch with us here. We'll keep you posted as to what's going on. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to do that. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk
Thank
to you again tomorrow.